Hey guys, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria. Welcome to my latest video. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from what I've been talking about, which is a lot of nutrition. I want to talk about my experience with having gastroparesis. So for those of you who don't know what gastroparesis is, basically it's a delayed gut motility. Gastro meaning stomach, paresis meaning like paralyzed or slow. Basically, food just moves through my system a lot slower than it does for a normal person. In my own situation, it's because I have a malformed pyloric valve. Not really sure what caused it. Probably congenital defect, because I can remember having stomach issues back when I was a kid. But anyways, I have figured out how to manage my own condition while being able to eat a highly nutritious diet, a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet. Lots of carbs. That is the solution because they are quick digesting. So when I originally went vegan, it was because I was having a lot of stomach issues. It was after I had this gastroparesis IBS diagnosis, and I was still not having any luck with, making dietary changes, taking supplements, things like that. So I switched to a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet in 2012, and it definitely got me on the right path to figuring out how to manage my gut issue, so that I could live like a happy, healthy, fit life. Because some people with gastroparesis, they end up needing feeding tubes because their situation's so bad. And there's, several different things that can cause gastroparesis, but for most people it's idiopathic, which means they don't know what causes it. But in my situation, I guess there is like a surgery that I can opt for, but after having a C-section, and I've had like knee surgeries in the past, I'm really not interested in having a surgery because I know that there's always side effects that come with it. So I'm going to share with you guys how I eat in order to keep my gastroparesis under control, and also to keep my IBS under control, because the two kind of like feed into each other. And I noticed that my IBS can start flaring around my cycle, and the gastroparesis will flare if I eat too much fiber, because fiber slows down the GI tract. It's very bulky, it's harder to digest and break down. So a lot of my diet ends up being more like refined foods, like juice. I start the day with some juice. Then, for instance, this morning I had some of these peaches for breakfast. The whole can, it's like 600 calories. I like having canned fruit because it's sitting in the juice. It's already broken down. It's really soft. The fiber is mostly soluble versus insoluble fiber. So that's something that's really important for people who have gastroparesis and IBS, is to have a high soluble fiber diet, where it's that soft, spongy fiber versus that hard, like brush-like fiber. Other things that I do really well with are smoothies. I also like adding sugar to my smoothies, or like these canned peaches came with sugar already in it and corn syrup. I don't have an issue with any of those things. In fact, they give me a lot of energy. They keep me fit and lean and healthy. Everybody, gives sugar a bad rep, when it's actually probably the most valuable nutritional supplement for a human being, because it's just energy straight to our cells, and it actually helps improve insulin sensitivity. So yeah, I will talk more about that in a future video coming up. Anyways, other things that I do or eat to help manage gastroparesis is, so I eat fruit and sugar throughout the day. Fruit for me is really easy to digest, but not all the time. So like raw fruit, for instance, like I have some grapes sitting over there, and apples and oranges, and I feel like I can eat like a meal of those, probably like a moderate sized meal at least one time a day, but otherwise the fiber ends up being a little too much for me, unless it's like bananas, which again is like an IBS safe food and is mostly soluble fiber. So I mostly will do juices and smoothies and canned fruit. Maybe once a day I'll have some fresh fruit. as a meal, especially if it's really ripe, seasonal, and super sweet. I find that the sweeter something is, the riper it is, and the better it digests for me. So even like with strawberries, I've been really enjoying strawberries with sugar on top, because strawberries generally like aren't as sweet as I prefer them, and I find that adding the sugar makes them digest better versus not having sugar on the strawberries. For whatever reason, the compounds in the strawberries, the fibers, the seeds, they are harder on my system when I don't add the sugar. So adding sugar to my diet, to my foods, especially my fruit meals, really has helped a lot with their digestion and has helped to manage my IBS gastroparesis situation. The last thing I want to talk about is what I have for dinner. So probably from like 4 o'clock on, so I follow kind of like a raw till 4, fruit and sugar till 4 o'clock. In the afternoon, I'll start having like some rice. White rice is my go-to. I can eat a lot of white rice, and carbs don't make you fat. They keep you nice and skinny. And that's because they don't contain any fat. And when you eat a high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet for long enough, your metabolism just works incredibly efficiently, and you burn off excess body fat and you stay lean for life. So it's a win-win situation that this diet helps manage gastrointestinal conditions and also keeps you, healthy and effortlessly lean for life. So anyways, my dinners are white rice or potatoes. I peel the potatoes, or I cook them in their skin and then take the skin off, either sweet potatoes or white potatoes. But I have to make sure I'm also having rice, because rice is that safe, soluble fiber food that's IBS friendly and also gastroparesis friendly. I will have vegetables like once a day, and I will generally either wrap my potatoes in like lettuce, but I won't eat like a whole heart of romaine lettuce. I'll eat like half of it. And then I will also have spring rolls. I'm sure if any of you follow me on Instagram, you see I'm always posting my spring roll wraps, which has white rice in it, nori seaweed, which is like my go-to kind of vegetable option because it's just really easy to digest and it's highly nutrient dense. And then I'll have like my raw salad, cucumber, cooked carrots, mushrooms, things like that in my wraps, and I'll wrap it all up and dip them in soy sauce. That's another thing that I find has really helped with my digestion, is having some kind of salty condiment with my starch meals. I think it's because the salt helps break down the starch, and so that makes it easier to digest. So that is how I eat in order to manage my gastroparesis IBS situation. It's fruit and sugar through the day, starches with some kind of salty condiment, a little bit of vegetables at night. And then as a topper, I like to have some kind of like candy. This stuff is awesome because when you are having like a gastro flare and a gastroparesis flare, and you can't handle a lot of volume, whether it's from liquid or, fruit or whatever, I can have some of these, or Sour Patch Kids are my favorite too. And that helps me to get in the calories, the energy that my body needs without giving it something that's really hard to digest. Because this stuff is just basically pure sugar. So you eat this and it dissolves, in your mouth, and sugar like completely dissolves in liquid. So if you can imagine, putting sugar into water and shaking it up, like it dissolves completely. This kind of stuff does the same thing in your stomach. So it makes for really effortless digestion. Your body doesn't have to work hard. It's not pumping through a lot of volume. It's not pumping through a lot of fiber. Don't get me wrong, those things are important. But for people who have gastroparesis, you have to be more aware of how much of that you're putting into your system so that it doesn't cause your body to have a flare-up, which flares are usually like where your gut will seize up. It can cause constipation, bloating, just really uncomfortable symptoms. And it's usually stuff like this, juice, that and white rice that can help to manage a flare if you're having one, because these foods again are really easy to digest. So I also find that I typically am eating like all throughout the day versus having like really large meals. Sometimes I will have like a really large smoothie if I'm really hungry, or really large like dinner meal, but I find that if I break my meals up versus having like a huge quantity in one sitting, it just digests better. And that's because with the gastroparesis, again, you're dealing with delayed gut motility. So when you're having, you know, your volume of food spread throughout the day versus at one time, it just makes it easier for your body to digest, absorb, and assimilate. So something else that I like to have that is usually really easy on my gut is something like slushies. Generally not so much the carbonated ones, but the ones that are just juice and ice. And also like Italian ices, I will get those and have them like after dinner. Things like this are just really easy to digest. And if you look up like just on Google or WebMD or something, what you should eat for having gastroparesis, like that's what it's going to say is juice, really easy to digest fruits, canned fruits without the skins, you know, ices, fruit pops, candies, maybe not so much candies just because they don't think sugar's healthy, but it is a highly important nutrient. And yeah, and white rice, peeled potatoes. So it all correlates with what is medically suggested for controlling gastroparesis and IBS. So yeah, I just put it all together into this high carb, low fat, plant-based vegan diet of mine, and it's worked out great. But that's it for this video. Leave any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.